Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankee season is over, and it ends in devastating fashion. They lose to the Los Angeles Dodgers by a score of 7-6 in Game 5. So I was at this game, and this is definitely one of the toughest games I've been to. I've been to my fair share of tough ones over the years, for sure, across all my teams. But this is a tough one. And look, the Yankees' chances of winning this series, even if they won this game, it wasn't great, but still, they should have very easily won this game. And it was just a disastrous fifth inning, an inning from hell. Three plays, and we'll discuss them, that should have been easily made and converted. And what could have been a 5-0 game was a 5-5 game. But then to make matters worse, the Yankees actually take the lead, and then they give it away in the eighth inning. So this was a series where the Yankees lose it in 5, and I'm almost positive, more than positive, that the Yankees actually outscored the Dodgers in these 5 games. This, for my Ranger fans out there, there's a lot of similarities in very weird ways to this series and the 2014 Stanley Cup Final against the Los Angeles Kings, where Kings won the first 3, Rangers won Game 4, Kings won Game 5, and again, LA versus New York, but where you look back at some of those games and they were right there for the taking, and they could not get it done. And so while the Yankees lost in 5, definitely a misleading sort of outcome. That all said, the Yankees did not deserve to win this at all. Dodgers, let's take the talent out of it for a second. And we know that the Dodgers are an extremely talented team. The big difference here by far is they do the little things right. Yankees make mistakes all over the place, whether it's defensive, base running, and it's just mental lapses. Dodgers, they seem to do all the little things correct, taking the extra base. Very, very sound defensively. That's the big difference here. We can talk all we want until we're blue in the face about some of the stars on the Dodgers. Hey, Shohei Ohtani did not really do much of anything this series. Now, of course, part of that likely due to the injury that he sustained in Game 2. But still, this was a game, Game 1 was heartbreaking, and this game was pure devastation. So it's going to take a while to get over this one. No way around it. Just in the fact of, wanting to get it back to LA, and they were so close to doing it. And this is a really, really painful loss. There's just no way around it. And to be there, and the stadium was just, electric, honestly, through the first half of that game, basically, it really did seem as if the Yankees would, win that pretty easily. And why not? They're up 5-0. Cole was pitching great. And ultimately, it all comes undone. There's a lot to discuss as well. I'm unsure how in detail I'll get with some things. I might do, a post-mortem sort of episode in time. That's still possible. I don't, know as I'm recording this right now if I will, but, definite chance of that. Because this right here is just reflection upon what was really, obviously a really good season in the fact that the Yankees reached the World Series. You can't, take that away. I know that the American League path was certainly a very favorable one for sure, but this was a team coming off of an 82-80 season, hadn't reached the World Series since 2009. So look, I'm not calling the season a failure, definitely not, but it just comes up short at the end when it didn't have to go down like that. Not even close. I wish I knew where to begin. Again, I've kind of teased a couple of things already. But let's try our best to get through this. So Garrett Cole starts for the Yanks, and was it a perfect outing for him? No, absolutely not. But the biggest indictment and the toughest thing for Cole wasn't his pitching. It was a play that I think deserves, in my opinion, And again, my perspective on this game is different having been at the game. It's a totally different experience than watching on TV, obviously. But I think that equal blame goes to Rizzo and Cole. I don't want to give one more blame than the other. Now, some might have a strong opinion on that. But for me, it was really a matter of, that out should have been made. And again, I'll get into more detail once we get there. And if that is made, forgetting about all the other bullshit that happened before that, it would have been a 5-0 game. So Garrett Cole's final line is one of the more bizarre lines you'll see. He goes 6 2/3 innings. So, he gave the Yankees really good length. He throws 108 pitches in 6 2/3 innings. 4 hits, 5 runs, none of them earned, 4 walks and 6 strikeouts. So I think he had a no-hitter. When did they get their first hit? I guess it was the fucking 5th, actually, which is, it was that 5th inning. It was a leadoff hit by Kike Hernandez, I believe. And even after the 5th inning went awry, he still stayed in there through the 6th and then got 2 outs in the 7th. Where Cole messed up most was hits to Freddie Freeman and Tasker Hernandez after the Mookie Betts single, which is kind of a crazy ruling. I mean, it's like it wasn't a single. I guess I don't know what you would actually – to me, it should be an error, but that's just the way the baseball scoring goes. So that was Garrett Cole. On the flip side, Jack Flaherty was absolutely annihilated. Jack Flaherty goes 1 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, and allowed 2 homers. So the Dodgers went to the bullpen early, and they used all high leverage. That's the thing, too, that sucks. And obviously there was going to be a day off tomorrow, but the fact that the way the bullpens were being used was advantageous. The Dodgers were going for this. And Dave Roberts, look, he pushed all the right buttons. He really, really did in terms of the pitching. Even going to Walker Buehler to save it and close out the World Series. A much maligned starter this year who was really, with Clayton Kershaw, the ace of this, kind of co-aces in the late 2010s and early 2020s. Walker Buehler was really one of the best pitchers in baseball. And at the right time kind of got it going. But just, again, Cole versus Flaherty was completely lopsided. But the Yankees were unable to totally bust it open, and that did cost them. And looking at it, Yankees 1 for 10 runners in scoring position. You just can't have that. You can't. The one hit was Alex Verdugo, and that's kind of been a theme as well. Now, Verdugo ends up having a terrible – that last at-bat was just atrocious. But it's actually funny that Verdugo really, he's actually one of the guys you kind of wanted up there with a runner on third and less than 2 out. He just puts the bat on the ball typically, and it kind of helps. But anyway, let's go through this. It starts out really well. 1, 2, 3 for Cole. And then the bottom of the first, Juan Soto and what may be. We're going to have to discuss that. I guess let's just go for it now. Juan Soto, look, this might be his last game as a Yankee. I hope it's not. I think it's up in the air. I think the Yankees have a pretty decent shot of bringing him back, but we don't know that. No one knows. So that is going to be a huge, huge storyline. And if I'm the Yankees, you do everything you can to bring Juan Soto back as a Yankee, because if you lose him, that is a massive, massive loss that you just simply can't replace. So that is going to be the biggest story this offseason. So Soto walks with 1 out. I'll say Gleyber Torres for the most part ended up not so great. Now, in terms of the offense, where it was a very strong, consistent postseason, but really at the end of the day, he was really good in the first inning, really good as a table setter, but ultimately 241 batting average with a 745 OPS, which is not bad. It really, especially in this day and age and the playoffs, those are not embarrassing numbers at all, but for what it was. And I think that we've probably seen Gleyber Torres in his last game as Yankee, which that's also no small thing, considering he's been with the team. He's one of the longest tenured players, been with the Yankees since 2018. So that will be interesting to see as well. But I don't be surprised if Gleyber is gone. Now, again, that kind of depends on Soto, right? In some way, shape, or form. But here's what happens. Aaron Judge with 1 out. First pitch, crushes it. 2-run homer, 3rd homer of the postseason, hits to right center field. So I was in attendance actually for the 2 Yankee Stadium home runs in the playoffs. I was actually there for both, Game 2 against Cleveland and then this one. The shame in it all is that Aaron Judge makes a really bad defensive fuck up in the 5th inning, which kind of overshadows what really was actually kind of a vintage Judge effort here in Game 5. I got to give credit where it's due because I was very, very tough on Judge. And look, ultimately, the numbers are still vastly, vastly underwhelming. He ends up in the postseason batting 184 with a 752 OPS. That's unacceptable. But in terms of this game, he was able to carry over what he did in Game 4. He was very, very good at the plate in this Game 5, truly. But again, unfortunately, it was far from a perfect thing for him because of what was a costly error in the fifth inning. It makes it 2-0. And then right after that, Jazz Chisholm Jr. homers. So it's back-to-back homers. Chisholm with the second homer of the postseason. The sad thing with Jazz is the lack of ability with runners in scoring position was brutal for Jazz Chisholm. It almost makes me think now, and again, this is more of a second guess situation. Would Chisholm have been better served batting leadoff? Now, obviously, Glaber did a great job in that leadoff spot, but you have a lot of opportunity batting after Soto, batting after Judge, batting after Stanton in certain situations, and Chisholm was brutal with runners in scoring position. He got better as the postseason went along, but a lot to be desired, and only getting 2 RBIs is not good. But anyway, that makes it 3-0 Yankees right there. So a great start. And Cole is cruising. And then the second inning, Yankees score again. Leadoff double for Anthony Volpe. Wells with a productive ground out. And then Alex Verdugo with the infield in gets an RBI single. So Verdugo taking advantage of those runners on third and less than 2 out situations by making contact. It wasn't always pretty, but Verdugo, he ends up with 8 RBIs in the 9 spot, which is not so bad. Again, very pedestrian type numbers overall for him, but he did have some moments. And that makes it 4-0. And that would be all for Jack Flaherty. Anthony Banda, the lefty, comes in. And this is what I'm talking about. It ends up being bases loaded 2 out for Chisholm, and he grounds out. That's a big spot there. He gets a base hit. That breaks the thing more open. We go to the bottom of the third. Yankees score again. Giancarlo Stanton, just one more time. He does it. He homers. Opposite field, 7th homer of the playoffs off of Ryan Brazier. So, yeah, Giancarlo, just crazy. Ends up with 7 homers and 16 RBIs. The guy is just an absolute stud in the postseason. And, hey, look forward to, he has 3 more years on his contract. And look, I know there's always going to be a lot of slander against Stanton, but, looking forward to a few more healthy postseasons for Giancarlo. It's truly special. So it makes it 7-0 Yankees. Sorry, not 7-0. I wish. 5-0 Yankees. Then in the 4th inning is when Cole starts to kind of, take a little bit of a downturn. A really nice catch by Judge on Freddie Freeman in left center field after a Mookie Betts leadoff walk. So that was a good piece of defense right there. So vibes are still high. Things are still good. Michael Kopech comes in for Ryan Brazier. And this is where, again, 2 on, 1 out. Judge flies out to left. He hit it pretty well. Not his fault at all. And then Chisholm strikes out, looking. Again, Jazz Chisholm, I know he homers in this game, but, those were really crucial spots that he did not come up big in at all. And then the 5th inning is the nightmare inning that kind of sums up in a lot of ways the bad things of this Yankee season. Leadoff single for Kike Hernandez, which actually ended Garrett Cole had a no-hitter through 4 innings. And then is when it starts to get ugly. So Tommy Edman reaches on a error by Aaron Judge in center field. An easy play for Judge to make. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he took his eye off the ball. It just drops out of his glove. I've never seen that before from him, ever. And at that moment, I'm thinking, okay, this is the first time I'm thinking, all right, bad, not good. And then the next play is another defensive miscue. Will Smith hits the ball into the shortstop hole. Volpe makes the right decision to try to get the out at third, but it's a bad throw by Volpe, and Chisholm's unable to scoop it, and everyone's safe. So this out of the 3 fuck-ups was to be the least egregious, but it still goes down as an error, and it's a play that, the Dodgers, they probably find a way to make that play. Bases loaded, no out, and then here's the saddest thing of all. Garrett Cole, who, look, that wasn't really his fault. Other than the Kike Hernandez single, what else was his fault in this inning? He strikes out Gavin Lux. He strikes out Shohei Ohtani. And then when Mookie Betts is up, this is, I guess, the one that probably will stick with me the most, although the Judge one is a close second. Betts hits a squibber to first to Anthony Rizzo. And Rizzo has to kind of stay back on it a little bit because of the nature of a righty hitting it to first. It wasn't a straight line. And it was a combination of Rizzo not running over to first and Garrett Cole not going to first either. Miscommunication, and Betts is safe. And you know what sucks too is Betts wasn't even really running that hard to start. Not that he was like dogging it, but like that was such and it would have been 5-0. And Cole would have gotten out of this really bad situation. He basically did it. He basically did it. It was a luck strikeout, an Ohtani strikeout, and basically what should have been a Betts ground out to first. And if that happens, there's a very, very likely chance that we're talking about a whole different situation. That's what makes these moments in game one, these moments in game five, that it's nightmarish. And here's where Cole fucks up. A couple of two-strike situations, I might add. It's Freddie Freeman, who won the World Series MVP, shocker to no one, gets a 2-run single to make it 5-3. And then another two-strike situation where Teoscar Hernandez, okay, so if it's 5-3, that's not good, but you've limited the damage. But Teoscar Hernandez hits a 2-run double tied up, and it's little things too, like little breaks the Yankees don't get, where like that could have been a ground rule double, but it's not. It stays in play. Judge is unable to get it. It was a tough play, and it ties it up at 5. So those big hits by Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez after the Mookie Betts play, but Cole is able to finish out the inning, keeps it 5-5. Now lefty Alex Vesia comes on. Yankees try to get a little bit of a 2-out rally. At the bottom of the order, the last couple of games have been pretty good. Volpe single, Wells hit by pitch, Verdugo walk. Gleyber Torres, that leads to him flying out to right field. So again, Gleyber, as much as it was, like I said, a positive postseason, when you combine that defensive play, that lackadaisical play in game one, and then, again, not really having the best World Series offensively, not a great way to go out. Then in the sixth, Cole gets a 1-2-3 inning, which was good because it was questionable as to whether it was right to bring him back out, but they do it and he settles down. And then Brusdar Graterol gives up a run for the Dodgers. Leadoff walk Soto, walk for Judge, and I will say Judge kind of caught some breaks where they could have called, Judge could have struck out in this at bat, but the ump kind of helped him out here a little bit. And then Jazz Chisholm Jr., again, another fucking run as a scoring position play for Chisholm Jr., but he grounds out and they only get the force out at second. So it ends up being a productive out, and it leads to Giancarlo Stanton. Too bad. It would have been nice for him to have gotten this game-winning sac fly. It's a sac fly for Stanton. It was hit really well. When he first hit it, I'm thinking, could this be a 3-run homer? It's not. It's a sac fly. Soto scores. And then another example of really risky base running, Jazz Chisholm, if he was out, Jazz Chisholm tags from first to second. If he was out, he might have been out at second before Soto reached home. Either way, it works out. Then Rizzo walks, and then they bring on Blake Trinan. Blake Trinan ends up going, he comes in with 2 out in the 6th. He ends up going 2 1/3 innings, throwing 42 pitches. Like, Trinan, who really is their top guy, delivered. And Anthony Volpe grounds out to keep it at 6-5. Now we go to the 7th. Cole gets a couple of outs, and then he walks Freddie Freeman. To which then Clay Holmes comes on to face Garrett Cole. Not to face Garrett Cole, to replace him. Holmes walks Teoscar Hernandez on 4 pitches. And again, we know that the control is a concern with Clay to start. But he really had Max Muncy's number all series long, basically, and he strikes Muncy out looking. So give Clay Holmes some credit for a big out there. Yankees go down quietly in the 7th against Trinan. And then in the 8th, this is where, for me, and it's probably not going to be made a huge deal with everything else that went on, Tommy Kahnle comes out to face Kike Hernandez. And I like Tommy Kahnle. I like him a lot. Honestly, I'm not anti-Tommy Kahnle. To me, this was not the move to make. There was 2 other moves in this situation that to me made more sense. And look, this is coming from someone that is not really the biggest Clay Holmes fan. Versus Kike Hernandez, who's a right-handed hitter. Clay Holmes better against righties, Kahnle better against lefties. I'm a little surprised that Clay Holmes, who only, I think Clay Holmes pitched games 3 and 4, but at this point, it's all hands on deck. Clay Holmes threw 11 pitches. And really, I think it would have been a one-batter situation. Surprised that they didn't keep Clay Holmes in for Kike Hernandez. And then beyond that, I know he's been worked. I know that he's pitched a lot. And I know that he didn't really pitch all that well in this game too. But going straight to Luke Weaver, I think, was a possibility as well. So this wasn't as egregious as some of the moves made in game 1, but it wasn't that far behind. I did not like it when it happened. I think for me, the Luke Weaver thing was more of a second guess. In the moment, I really felt like Clay Holmes for Kike Hernandez was the way to go. And then from there, you kind of evaluate. I would have been open to going from Holmes to Kahnle in that inning. Like, I wasn't, you didn't have to go straight to Weaver. But again, this was the last move I would have made. Having Canley start the inning versus Hernandez is a little bit mind-boggling for me. And another thing that I wouldn't say came back to bite them, but their lack of faith in Tim Hill was a little bit disappointing, where they just didn't trust him against righties, and it prevented them from bringing him in multiple situations in this series. And that was a little bit unfortunate, for sure. Anyway, Canley does not get the job done. Kike Hernandez single. Then a very fortunate broken bat single, infield single for Tommy Edman, who was batting as a righty, even though he switched it against Canley, and then Will Smith walked. That's where I can't defend Tommy Canley. He 4-pitch walks Will Smith, and then they're forced to bring in Luke Weaver into a bases loaded no out spot. And you really needed to strike out Gavin Lux, who really had been one of their weaker hitters, and Lux gets a sac fly. But not only that, he gets the runner over from second to third. That was a big part of that play. Again, that's where the Dodgers are just ahead of the curve when it comes to them versus the Yankees. Then what happens is a really big catcher's interference on Austin Wells on the Shohei Ohtani at bat. What could have been 0-1 on a foul ball ends up being catcher's interference. And I didn't get a good look at it at the stadium, but I guess it was a very quick confirmation. So I guess that was the right call. I guess no one was really complaining about it, so I assume so. But that was big because I think Ohtani was ripe to be – he was not looking great, Shohei Ohtani. Like, honestly, you'd rather face Ohtani than Mookie Betts, given where they're both at right now. So that sets it up for bases loaded, 1 out, 6-6 game, and Mookie Betts, I think it was first pitch sac fly. And that's exactly what Mookie Betts, it wasn't first pitch in game 1, but Mookie Betts also had a sac fly off Luke Weaver then as well. Mookie Betts has been a thorn on the Yankees side ever since he's been on the Red Sox, and it was nice to get away from him, but now on the Dodgers, he does it again. But then Weaver gets Freddie Freeman to strike out, and that's kind of the sick nature of like these, like the Yankees, like they lost by 1 in this game. Like, as bad as it all was, like it was always still right there for them, even in its bad times. We go to the bottom of the 8th, and Juan Soto's last at bat's a ground out, which is surprising against Blake Treinen. I mean, Soto got on all 4 times before that. And it's surprising when Soto doesn't get on base like in these late situations. But Aaron Judge in his last at bat, he doubles. That's what I'm saying in terms of Judge at the plate. It was coming around. That was a very clutch double. And then Chisholm Jr. walks. And then Stanton. This was kind of the shot. And Stanton flies out, which was tough. Because Stanton was, out of anyone, he was one of the guys you want up there. And he flies out. And then Anthony Rizzo strikes out. For Rizzo, respect everything that he's done in this game. And like, he seems like such a likable guy. But it just wasn't good. I really still believe that it would have been better. The Yankees would have been better off if he had not come back on the LCS. And I know that the numbers, look, 267 batting average, 721 OPS, not that bad. He did put up some competitive at-bats, like drew walks, got some singles. I get all that. But the defense was not nearly good enough, and we can all agree to that. And there was just no potential pop in his bat. It is what it is. The first base issue was there all year long, whether it was Rizzo, LeMahieu, Ben Rice. Like they never solved it. And I didn't mind the Oswaldo Cabrera John Birdie combination, specifically Oswaldo. I wish that Oswaldo got more of a chance, but you can tell they're just not that high on him. But that's a conversation for another day. 9th inning, Luke Weaver gives up a hit to Tasker Hernandez. He gets Max Muncy to fly out, and then another brain fart where it's a disengagement violation on Luke Weaver for throwing over 3 times. Again, like these mistakes left and right all over the place. And then Kike Hernandez walks, so Weaver's night is done. He gave the Yankees everything he had. I mean, Luke Weaver, he's going to be your closer next season to start. Will it last? Who knows? But he is unequivocally the closer because Clay Holmes is going to be a free agent. Tommy Kahnle's a free agent. Jonathan Loaisiga, who we've forgotten about, he's a free agent. Tim Hill's a free agent. So, yeah, a lot of those bullpen guys may not be back next year, but Weaver will be. Mark Leiter Jr., someone that will be in the mix next year. Mark Leiter Jr. deserves credit. He gets Tommy Edman to strike out and Will Smith to ground out in a pretty big spot to hold it at 1. It's a shame that Leiter Jr. was so bad down the stretch in the regular season because really he could have been involved in some bigger situations that may have really helped. I think back to game 1 specifically, but yeah, like he ended up being used in more higher leverage spots as time went on. But it is too bad. Like that the timing of that, where he replaces Ian Hamilton against Cleveland, but not lost on me that Leiter Jr. Did kind of turn it around, and it does have me a little bit optimistic on him for next season. I think he'll be part of the mix, and hopefully he can be more like he was in the postseason than he was in the regular season. So we go to the bottom of the ninth, and Trinan's done after a long, long outing. He got the job done, and Dave Roberts came out there. I think he had a mound visit, I guess. Must have been before the Stanton flyout. Had to have been, to calm him down, and it worked, and it really worked. I think that's what it was. So bottom of the ninth, Walker Buehler comes on. Now, they could have went to Daniel Hudson, who struggled the night before. They go to Walker Buehler, and he's the starting pitcher. He's been his whole career. He gets the save. Anthony Volpe grounds out, and this ended up being a 2-2 count that he grounds out on. Then Austin Wells works the count full, 7-pitch at bat, but ultimately strikes out. So for Austin Wells, a really tough postseason for him. It ends up after what was a really good season, especially, in June, July, August was really good. September and October, not so good. And then Alex Verdugo, the former Dodger, and what is hopefully his last at-bat as a Yankee, just a terrible at-bat. And of course, he homers in the ninth inning, down 4-0 in Game 3, where you could have used a homer here. But that seemed like that was the approach that he was taking, which it shouldn't have been, because you had Glaber and then Soto. I just wanted them to somehow get up to Soto, and they were 2 batters away from that. I really think if Soto was up, let's say, in a first and second 2-out spot, at worst he's walking, or at worst he's lining out to someone. But Verdugo swings it 3 pitches out of the zone, and that's it. The Los Angeles Dodgers win the World Series. They're second in the last few years. They won in 2020, but that one has a little bit of a asterisk around it because of the COVID nature of it. So they did it. So first since 1988, if you don't want to include that one, which I think you should include it, it happened. But the Dodgers win. We don't even see the series go back to LA, which is such a shame and really disappointing. This team is going to look a lot different next season, regardless of Soto. It's going to be a different looking team. It's never easy. You never know how close you're going to get. And so when you do, you best take advantage of it. And the Yankees didn't. And this loss is going to sting for a very long time, as well as Game 1. Game 1 and Game 5 are 2 of the toughest losses. And this one is just absolutely cruel. At home, to lose like that. Yeah. So, Yankee season's over. It ends in a heartbreaker. They lose to Los Angeles Dodgers in Game 5 at Yankee Stadium by a score of 7-6.